pumped about it. But a lot of that's just like, hey, could you believe this? 145 thing just melts your face. And, I can stand it, but you can't because you're weak. But like the thing I love about this,
that was amazing.
Yeah, that's my bourbon bro voice.
And welcome everyone to episode 234 of The Mashup, the most interesting bourbon conversation you're going to hear all week long. With your hosts, Kenny, Anthony, and Steven. Good afternoon, guys.
What's up, my man?
Did you say afternoon?
I sure did.
It's going to evening, but
Evening. Good evening. So we are actually back at you with a Tuesday episode, but this one is not a short. This is actually a show that we have for you today that involves guests from the bourbon industry. And we are recording on site at Justin's House of Bourbon, where we just finished up a bottle release event, a very exciting one. And the release was for a single barrel of Hartfield and Company Distillery's Family Reserve 9-year-old Kentucky bourbon, clocking in at 145.5 proof, which was insane. And they had about 100 bottles, I believe. I'm not sure many are left. And Hartfield and Company is a local distillery out in Paris, Kentucky, Bourbon County, right? Is that right?
County.
That's right.
Okay, yeah. Bourbon County. And we have the honor and privilege of welcoming Jeremy Buchanan, who is a co-owner and master distiller and president at Hartfield and Company. Jeremy?
Yeah, great to be here, guys. Excited.
Awesome. And then we also have Mike Leek, who is the VP of Sales. And
it's kind of like a no from what I've been told.
Very close with the nose, yeah.
Thank you,
yeah. And then we also have another special guest here, Mr. Ryan Alves, back on the show again.
They forced me again. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, we had Ryan come in and we said, you want to be on here? And he said, no, that's okay.
It's like, we got to set it up.
We'll set you up. We'll get you in here. So, gentlemen, we're so happy to be here with you this evening. Thank you for joining us, sticking around after your release event here.
Yeah, that's great to be here.
That's very good of you. So Hartfield and Company is actually a distillery that we've known about for a long time. Steven and I actually have tried your products before. Way back when. So started in 2013.
2013, yeah.
I don't know. I kind of want to hear you guys kind of take it from the top a little bit and give us not only information about yourselves, but also kind of a bit about the brand. However you want to do this is good with us, which is relaxed, casual conversation here.
Yeah, listen, Anthony, we could talk about the distillery. We could talk about those cookies we ate earlier. I'm not sure which
Talk about cookies.
That's an early drop on the cookies.
Well, we wasted no time.
What was the name of those cookies again?
Jocelyn's cookies? I don't know.
Jocelyn?
Yeah,
Party? Something I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah.
Party's Kitchen.
Party's
Yeah.
Kitchen.
Yeah.
She just came in here and blessed us with some awesome bourbon cookies that were amazing.
Yeah,
so
man, bourbon ball cookies.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. I still just haven't been able to stop thinking about. I'm just rethinking my life choices now.
Yeah. Go check them out online, definitely.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I missed the cookies. I got off work late.
You missed out. I was trying to save some for you.
Yeah,
It was
I'm
the
sure you
worst
were.
attempt at saving I've ever seen. He just kept pulling cookies out of his pocket and taking a bite and then putting them back in his pocket.
Very dainty.
Yeah, I literally, I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah,
Did
but
Ryan make you a plate of them?
Yeah. I told him when he could eat them.
There you go. Okay.
Ryan gave you permission to eat, and thank you, Ryan, for letting me eat. I appreciate it.
Not a little inside joke, gentlemen, but yeah.
Ryan's ordered my food before, and I wasn't happy. So, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about
Hartfield.
Hartfield, yeah.
Yeah, so grew up in Bourbon County. My brother and I grew up there, and got into bourbon when we got into college, and started learning some facts about Bourbon County. And so, despite what the Woodford County Commission says, Bourbon County is the birthplace of bourbon whiskey. It's where bourbon gets its namesake. At one point, it stretched about a fifth of the state.
Wow.
Right? So
Really? Wow.
yeah, so early distillers there, were making their whiskey and shipping it down the river. All those barrels would be stamped with the county of origin. And so, they would say from made in Bourbon County, Kentucky. And I think as the story goes, people would seek out the whiskey from Bourbon County, which just gets shortened to bourbon whiskey. Anyways, it's namesake of the spirit. Of course, named after the French House of Bourbon. There are 26 active distilleries there in Bourbon County before Prohibition. So I didn't know any of that stuff, right? Grew up there in the county, went to Bourbon Central, went to Bourbon County Middle and high school, and there was always the joke that like Christian County is wet and Bourbon County is dry.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a dry county until I was in middle school or something, and so started learning about some of the distilleries in Bourbon County. And, my brother's a very entrepreneurial guy, and he just said, man, we were drinking one night, just said, isn't it crazy that there are no active bourbon distilleries in Bourbon County? And just like, man, that's wild. And so he was running this social media marketing company at the time, and just said, dude, bringing bourbon back to Bourbon County seems like something we could do. And so we didn't know anything. We got a little still, started, moonshining in the basement.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, started the basement?
Yeah, just a little basement bourbon experiment.
That's awesome.
And 2013 opened up, had our first release a couple years later, and been hard at it ever since. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary last October.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So starting from that, you guys, so all brands have, we joke sometimes on the podcast about brands' history and things like that. So I was unclear on this because I don't know anything and I actually can't read. But Hartfield and Company is not a label that existed previously, right? It's just, it is.
It is actually, yeah. So,
it is? Okay.
Yeah, so as we were getting into this, we started looking into kind of the family history, and so my 4 great-grandfathers, a man named Isaac Hartfield.
Okay.
And so he and his brother Leopold immigrated from Germany to the United States in the 1800s, settled in Kentucky, and started the Hartfield Distillery in 1865.
Oh, wow.
And so the distillery ran, for a number of years, and it burned down just before Prohibition. And so as we got started, we actually had a different name that a company that I shall not mention that rhymes with Bazarac. So they didn't take kindly to the name we had selected, and sent us some cease and desist letters. And so we were kind of like, man, this is it's a bummer. It's good press, to get started, be like kind of David and Goliath, but
Right.
Like Hartfield Van Winkle or what?
We don't know why they had a problem with
Hartfield
it.
Van Wellerwinkle. We were, had to do a name change, and just thought, man, let's just resurrect the Hartfield label and bring back the family name, which I think is a great
awesome,
name.
man.
It's a better name than what we picked the first time around. So
That's amazing.
So Hartfield's a family name, and I think the label's lost to history. There's no surviving Hartfield bottles that I know of. If you have one out there, I'd love to see it. But as far as I know, none of those bottles exist anymore. But we did return the label to history.
That's amazing. So is that something that, Ryan, have you tried to track anything down like that? Because I know you've tried to probably get historical bottles all the time. You've never seen Hartfield out there anymore?
No, I didn't know that was I didn't know that label existed.
That's why I asked, because I wasn't sure either. And it's hard when you're doing the research and you can't find that kind of stuff because it's not out there.
Right.
And so I did pick up that there was some form of a distillery before, but I'm glad that I can hear it right straight from you, right?
Yep, straight out of the man's mouth.
No doubt. So, Mike, when did you become involved with the brand, and what's your background in bourbon?
Yeah, so the joke is that I don't know anything. He just said there's 26 distilleries before. When I was given tours, when I first started just back in June, I told people it was 278 distilleries, pre-prohibition. So I just make stuff up, and if you say it with conviction, most of the times they think you're telling the truth. But so I started with the company back in June. Kentucky changed its law. House Bill 50 went through and allowed craft distillers to go straight to retailers and make those relationships so that we're not battling with the big guys in distribution. And so I came on and started doing that. And honestly, outside of when I was a Marine drinking Jack and Cokes, I didn't have a lot of bourbon history. Just getting wasted on Jack and Coke was my bourbon.
It's not a bad thing, though.
Yeah, you share that with a lot of us. I said us, not us. You share that with us. Yeah, you share that with us.
Us with a Z.
With a Z. Okay.
Us.
I'm always going to do that to you. You know
Us.
that, us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an inside joke about that.
I like that.
Yeah, Stephen and Kenny have different ways of pronouncing words.
That would be the correct way.
Correct. I say that's the Lexington way of doing it because they're both Lexingtonians. But no, that's great. So it's still in the basement? You got to talk to me a little bit about that, because my dream is to have a still in the garden.
Yeah.
When my wife's like, let's take the garden seriously. I'm like, can we put a still out here? And maybe distill some rye out here or something?
Yeah.
in the
I've
garden?
got a still.
You got a still too?
I got a still.
Where's your still at? Does everybody have a still but me, Steven? Do you have one too?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little 10-gallon copper still. Pretty simple design, but I think not having any experience in it, my brother just really wanted to know how hard is it to mash and ferment, right? Like,
Right.
is it, if you throw yeast in something, does it actually ferment? Like, these are good questions to
Yeah.
know.
Did you do just corn, or did you actually do traditional grain bill?
It'd be a good question for my brother. I don't
Okay,
know that
gotcha.
part of the story, but yeah, it was
Gotcha.
some sort of grain, that he pureed and put.
We've just done corn on
bucket.
ours before, but we didn't do the normal. We didn't do corn, rye, and barley.
Sure.
Okay, so I heard a little bit about Mike's just Jack and Cokes, but did you have like things in your before? You talk about growing up in Bourbon County, but was there any like obsession with bourbon? Anything like in the background other than having family? I mean, having family is a big deal that's involved with distilling,
sure.
but
No, I mean, same deal. I mean, I think, again, growing up in Bourbon County, the history of bourbon production had just been lost to time, and it was something that not many people talked about. And then, the family history was not, something that was really passed down either.
Okay.
Yeah, and so my aunt kind of heard, that we were doing this, and had reached out to us and just said, "Hey, this woolly guy in this photo right here is Isaac Hartfield, and he had a distillery
Nice.
in 1865." And so, it was like a full circle moment. It's like, man, we set out to do this, and realizing that it was in our family's blood. Although I have to say, I think most people, if they looked hard enough, if they've been in Kentucky for a couple generations, probably has a distiller somewhere back that they could reach back to. But I mean, growing up in Bourbon County, there wasn't like a deep love of bourbon or anything. I think like a lot of folks, the last 20 years, the popularity of bourbon, has exploded, and so just got into college and really started taking drinking, more seriously, and not just drinking to whatever, get drunk, but just really enjoying.
Shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired.
The intellectual drunk, huh?
But, just really enjoying what I was drinking, and that around the same time, my brother kind of came to this epiphany of, let's be the brand that brings bourbon back to Bourbon County.
That's pretty awesome, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's wild too, because there are so many brands that are available now that were Bourbon County brands before, but they just never came back to the county.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting. So there aren't any other. Are there any other distilleries?
There's still
I'm not
another-
trying to ask you to plug other distilleries.
No, it's like this. There's still another distillery. Is like every couple years, like somebody comes up and says, "Hey, we're putting a big distillery in Bourbon County," and then it just never comes to fruition. I think we'd welcome more folks out that way. Definitely being part of the Bourbon Trail has been huge for us, and we're kind of out of the way. I think Augusta and Old Pogue are, kind of up that way, so people may swing by and hit 2 or 3 of us. But, if you don't intend to go to Paris, most people don't end up there. Maybe they go to see Claiborne Farms or something, but, you have to want to be there. Except for Steven lied to me and said he used to hang out at Hartfield a decade ago.
Yeah. We went there a couple of times right off the main drag there.
Yeah.
And I think we went to like a New Year's Eve thing. Yeah. We had a bunch of food out there. We brought kids there. We had the toys. We were there for a while. I think we went there another time just to have cocktails.
See, look at this.
See, you got an OG right here.
Yeah,
So
it is,
a
yeah.
long time ago. I think you guys had just opened.
Yeah.
So when you were researching, from your family, were any there interesting stories that came, so and so when they did this, this happened?
My great granddad got locked up when he was bootlegging down there.
Well, so my great grandfather didn't speak English, being a German immigrant, and he his nickname was Me Isaac, because he would just say,
Miyazaki.
and so I mean, there's some funny family stories like that. He had a kid named Littleberry, and again, I'm just wondering if that's some weird translation thing. It probably sounded awesome in German. It's like "Doc Schunkerlein," and translated to Littleberry.
Dude, you're not allowed to say that on the radio.
Yeah, edit that
We're
one
censored
out.
now.
Yeah, censored. That's an R-rated podcast.
You just got canceled.
But yeah, I mean, so when the distillery burned down, I think a lot of that history was just lost. We found the site of the old distillery, and there's just nothing. There's nothing there. There's one photograph. It's pretty hazy, but it's published in a newspaper. And, the story that was in the newspaper that accompanied that photograph said that they, had like a 50-gallon mash tun, and, were producing bourbon regularly. So just, interesting stuff. But yeah, a lot of that, again, is just kind of lost to history.
That's cool. At least you have a photo.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
neat.
Actually, it's really awesome to have
Yeah.
one photo, and we've got a photo of Isaac and his wife Susan, and
Faces for podcasting.
yeah, things were different back then. Things were different.
Mike, are you looking for promotion?
Well, based on the way he talks and the way he looks, I think, Anthony, you have a lot in common with this guy.
It was funny when you said the me Isaac thing, because there's a joke with Steven's Italian, I'm Greek, that there's a lot of Tonys for Greeks and Italian immigrants, and a lot of my family and your family as well. It's because when they got, they wrote on them to New York on their foreheads and sent them to Ellis Island. So that's why you have all the Tonys too.
All
So
these Tony shit.
yeah.
T-O-N-Y.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like, there you go. End up at Ellis
Wow.
Island. There you go.
Oh, boy.
No, I love the history, man. And like you mentioned something really interesting, which was about craft. You guys consider yourselves still to be craft?
yeah,
Because that's the thing that I didn't realize. My brain is like scrambled eggs sometimes, and I'm like,
Yes, it
wow,
is.
these guys have been around since 2013.
Yeah.
And so that's great that you've gone, now you're in year 11, right? Is that doing the math right?
Yeah.
Year 11. And so do you still consider yourself by production to be craft? Is that kind of what it is? Or
Yeah.
you got to tell me because I don't know these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the official definition is 30,000 barrels.
Okay.
And so we definitely don't have 30,000 barrels in storage. But to me, that's like the official Kentucky Distillers Association definition of craft, right? To me, craft is not just like a legal definition, but it's more of a mindset and a way of production. So we're at the level of production right now where we can still put hands on every barrel. We can taste every barrel we blend into a batch. When we do single barrel releases, we're not just going up and saying, this Rick, pull it, that's our honey hole, all these are going to be fine, don't worry about it. Like, we actually taste through the barrels and set the ones aside that we know are good. When we did that, the 10 barrels we released for the 10-year anniversary of the Family Reserve 9-year, those were curated barrels that we had set aside and really knew, like, these barrels are going to turn into something special. And, they just kept getting better and better. And so, to me, the word craft is not just small. It means crafted, right? Like, it means you're a craftsman, putting your heart and soul into it. And, no shade. Like, there's a lot of amazing bourbon built by big companies, and there's a lot of people who put their heart and soul into it. So I'm not, saying like big distilleries are bad just because they have, more volume. But, man, there really is something that's amazing about being to walk through the Rick House and know that barrel right there and that barrel right there and that barrel and know exactly what they taste like and how they're going to blend together, and actually being able to put liquid lips and taste through things when you build a batch. That to me, that's what craft means.
So building off the craft spirit here, is what makes yours like more unique than anyone else's? in the industry?
So distilling the first legally distilled bourbon from Bourbon County in 95 years, like, My brother really had in mind this the idea of pre-prohibition style, and like we don't have my great grandfather's mash bill or whatever, and honestly, like in the 1800s, I'm not sure that they were like super particular about. Right. It really is just like, hey,
Probably changed a lot.
yeah, it changed a lot.
They
And
weren't doing pigs.
If the yeah, that's right. If the barley crop failed that year, they weren't super upset that they went to 4% instead of 10% barley, right? But there were some general principles before Prohibition that we found in history. For one, most of the spirits had a higher barley count. And so fermentation was difficult to do. Today we've got amazing yeast strains. The yeast is formulated to ferment every grain that's in, particular mash bill. You can, you use different yeast grains from mash bill to mash bill. But a lot of distilleries before Prohibition were cultivating wild yeast, in their distillery or whatever, and trying to ferment with wild yeast. And so, the way that you would overcome that is by increasing the amount of malt in your mash. And a lot of distilleries even malted corn, even though it doesn't release, amylase, the enzyme. They didn't have synthetic enzymes to add. And so when my brother got started with the first two mash bills in that pre-prohibition line, we knew we wanted to do a really high malt The rye bourbon, the pre-prohibition style with rye, is 62 corn, 19 rye, 19% malted barley. And then we have a really unique 2-grain bourbon that's 80% corn, 20% malted wheat. And so both of those have an enormous amount of malt compared to most modern bourbons, around 4 or 10%, right?
I'm a high malt guy, man.
Yeah.
It's just flavor.
Well,
You like
so
it.
at that level, the malt actually becomes a flavor contributor, and you can really taste the way that the malting process releases some really interesting flavors into the malt, and so those are super unique. And then the other thing that my brother found just in doing that research, barrel sizes weren't standardized until after World War II. Right, and so the 53-gallon barrel, 200-liter barrel is the standard in the industry now. Virtually every distillery does it. Some craft distillers will use, 30-gallon or even 6 gallons, what we used to make the pre-pro style. But before Prohibition, people were distilling and aging in anything they could find, right? And that as the industry progressed, that got more and more standardized. And certainly up to Prohibition, you see all those pictures that are dumping 53-gallon barrels, But back on the frontier in Bourbon County, you would have had a variety of barrel shapes and barrel sizes. And so a smaller barrel has a higher liquid to surface area ratio and ages in a different way. And so it's a fully matured flavor profile, but it pulls different flavors from the wood than a spirit that sits in the wood for 6 to 10 years. And so that pre-prohibition spirit is probably the most unique thing that we do. And as we got started, it's just kind of our way of putting our mark on history to say, hey, this spirit is a lot more in common with the types of spirits being made in Bourbon County before the turn of the century.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I tried to once pour White Dog into an oak box. It didn't work out for me. Just kind of seeped through the sides.
It wasn't a standardized barrel.
Yeah, it wasn't a standardized barrel
You gotta
for
swell
me.
it. You gotta swell your box first.
I didn't know that. See, I'm learning all kinds of stuff tonight.
Yeah.
Why I messed up before.
Speaking of swelling boxes, I'd like to get a word out to our sponsor, Blue Chew.
Well, I've always said, Kenny, you gotta have a wet box to swell a box.
Oh, you guys. Do you want to kind of get to talking about a little
Talk
bit
about what we poured?
the event tonight too, and a little bit about that? So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Ryan?
We're going to start with what I have seen from our shop. 2 products that relatively new that I really can't ever keep on the shelf. It seems like I'm always hitting Mike up to reorder more stuff. I'm super excited about them. I think what they're showing is the capabilities of this distillery and something super unique for the market. The style of the mash bill, the style. I'll let Jeremy and Mike talk about it, but we're going to start with the small batch Old Bourbon County, and then the single barrel cast strength Old Bourbon County, and then we can get into the 9-year Hartfield Family Reserve.
Yeah, that's great. So, we were known for that pre-prohibition style, and when we released this more modern style bourbon, we really wanted to, for one, release something that had a direct connection to, the birthplace of bourbon, the Old Bourbon County. But, for 2, we really wanted a different style packaging, and, if you've seen those Old Bourbon County bottles, a beautiful label. We researched a lot of old label designs and kind of brought back a lot of old elements, muted color palette, like a lot of older labels have. But yeah, so that distillate mash bill for the Old Bourbon County product is 70 corn, 20 wheat, 10% malted barley. So everything you love about a nice modern wheated bourbon.
Well, I love weeders, so
Yeah,
yes, you're speaking my language.
This is a weeder. Sweet.
it's a
So,
wheater.
You know what I have to say real quickly? Because you guys are here in the area, you know this. When I first saw this bottle, and I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, I thought that this was a private labeling for the restaurant.
Oh,
OBC, because I'm a moron.
yeah.
And then I looked into it a little bit more, and I saw Hartfield and Company right at
Right.
the bottom there.
Right.
But I just think it's really cool because it kind of captures the essence of other things it plays off that are going
sure.
on in town as well. So I like that, and I like the label a lot. What do you
Are
guys
those
think of that?
binoculars? Is that kind of
What is the front?
Yeah. I guess if you squint or you get super drunk, they could be like a skeleton looking at you with 2 eyeballs. Yeah.
That's a really classic label. And the bottle shape, because we like to talk about bottle shapes a lot, it's kind of looks like a wine bottle, but like almost like a what would you say it looks like?
E.H. Taylor.
H.
Taylor
bottle. But I mean, a lot of people use that. We're just using it as something
yeah.
to relate to the people who can't see it, since we're not visual. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and to me, the feel of that bottle, like, it just makes me think of a cowboy sitting in a saloon.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it just has that old timey feel.
Definitely break it across somebody's head.
Yeah, right on.
Right.
Right on.
And again, for our listeners, to remind you, it's Paris, Kentucky, not Paris, France. Everybody comes here like, you all got Paris and you got Versailles. And I'm like, no, it's Versailles, Versailles. So we get a lot of that too here. Yes, a lot of French influence. So yeah, do you guys want to taste this? Or
So both of those are the weeders?
are both
Yeah,
weeders?
both of these are weeded mash bills. So we kept two releases in the Old Bourbon County. The small batch is released. We build these in super small batches, 110 proof in the bottle. We really like that, a little bit higher proof. And for a weeder, man, they just have just a really incredible dry pepper spice finish. A lot of weeders for me just kind of fall off on the finish, but this one really lingers on the palate in a way that I love. And then we also have a single barrel cask strength version of that.
So of your Old Bourbon County line, they're all weeded right now? Do you do any
that's
other
right.
mash bills? Okay.
Yeah. So we've got a rye whiskey that is getting ready to turn 2 years old.
Okay.
And we're working on just tasting through those barrels and figuring out when the right time to release it. We'll probably release a rye within the next year or so in the Old Bourbon County line.
You looking for any volunteers to come help taste?
Yeah, we're always looking. We have such a hard time, Kenny, finding people who want to come down
on
and
Wednesdays
drink.
and Thursdays. So
That's the days we taste. That's interesting.
That's perfect.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
One thing I found interesting as somebody who didn't know anything, there's no rule about small batch, right? There's no legal definition of small batch. And so I always joke around with some of the bigger distilleries when we're at these events and say, oh, how many are in your small batch? And I had one recently tell me 4,000 barrels, right? And so we've got 5 barrels in a lot of ours. And I was like, yeah, small is relative, right?
You know, it's great that you bring that up, though, because I just had one of my old professors visiting for the Bourbon Classic that happened recently here in Louisville. And one of the people that he was with said, I'm really into wine, and I know a lot about wine. He's like, and there's specific definitions of the way things work. He said, but small batch bourbon seems like it's a trick. He said, how small can a batch be?
That's
so I'm
exactly
glad he
right,
clarified that, because I said it can be thousands of barrels. And he said, see? And he told his buddy through his hand. He's like, I told you, this isn't really a small batch. It's a big batch. And I'm like,
it's
all
not
right.
Yeah, there's so many rules about everything else, but not small batch.
Not small batch, right? How about that? But how many barrels did you say? I missed that. How many
Yeah, so
barrels?
we build these blends between 4 and 6 barrels, and again, to get back to that idea of craft, I mean, we really taste through a number of barrels. We try and pick barrels that complement each other when we build those batches, and it's great to know that we can taste everything that we put in there, which is not feasible when you're doing 4,000
I think that's cool, man.
plus
I
barrels.
think that's neat.
Yeah.
Well, I think I think it's important that you say that, because and I feel like I'm sort of guilty sometimes too of using that word to maybe describe a negative craft, and I don't think that that's fair, because you're right. Like it's not that it's poor quality or anything lesser than a legacy distillery. It's just that you're crafting it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think I've even tried to switch up my vocabulary. Instead of saying something tastes crafty, you know what I mean? Like it's not a negative. It really means that they're maybe even more like attention to detail and more hands-on, more everything you said, being able to control things at a very small level.
And 4 to 6 barrels, I mean, that's got to be amongst the smallest blends, I think. I mean, 2 barrels, I've seen that.
Yeah, what is it?
Kind of
Blue
stuff,
Run puts out they call it a micro batch, and they're trying to
3
distinguish.
barrels,
Yeah, they're trying to distingush that.
Right.
Hey, we actually mean it's really small batch, or some people put very small batch or whatever. But yeah, it actually is a small batch of bourbon.
Right.
Hey, Ron, how much are these at retail?
I'd have to look again, but I know the single barrel is $79.99 is what we sell it for, and I think the other one is $59.99 or $69.99.
I was just going to say, for tasting notes, if anybody wants any, I just had some pizza, so it could be that. But I'm kind of getting a little bit of a honeysuckle note, some pepper that you mentioned. It's pleasant. It's actually, I'm pretty critical of weeders. And how old is this?
4 years for the small batch. Most of the single barrels are 5 now.
Okay, I will fully say this. I'm very critical of young weeders because I really like older weeded bourbon.
This does not taste 4 years old.
This does not taste 4
At
years
all.
old. I often describe it as like a dry bread flavor and like construction material.
It does not have any of
It
that.
doesn't have any of that. So I'm glad. I'm glad it doesn't. I don't know if you ever tasted anything like that, but to me, I don't know how to describe it.
It is sweet on the front, a little
It's
peppery on the end.
peppery
though.
on the
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got $59.99 on the small batch and
Okay.
then $79.99 on the single barrel.
Nice. Okay.
I like that.
That's it. I mean, I think for this line, we really wanted great juice, great packaging, and affordable price, and for people to actually be able to find it. And so
That's good.
it's hitting the mark in the right way for
being
sure.
serious, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So we know we can get it here. I noticed that you guys I went to your website, of course, and had to do my investigations. Can you guys ship to, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, coming soon will be available. Ryan, you want to talk about that?
Oh,
Yeah, I think we shook hands right before we started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Breaking news.
Just ink the deal.
perfect.
Ink is wet.
Ink has not dried.
We'll be able to buy them off Bourbon Outfitter coming soon. Use code MASHUP.
Use code mashup.
Save 5%.
There you go. Perfect.
Nailed it. Great plug.
The mashup. The
Jeremy looks
mashup.
right at me like, there you go.
The mashup.
The mashup.
The mashup.
You get
code
20%
the
off.
mashup.
Yep, you get 20% off.
You get 5.
But honestly, so people are
If you use mashup, you get kicked in the nuts. But the mashup gets you some time off.
listeners will message me all the time. I'm sure Kenny and Steven, they do the same thing. They'll message and they'll say, like, I'm getting this bottle. What else can I add to my order? Because I'm shooting for free shipping, or I'm shooting for this or that. And so it's nice to be able to recommend
There's something
We've
else,
got to
yeah.
recommend
For
something
sure.
else to them.
We'll have them
So-
up there soon. Probably in the next couple of weeks.
Like, how many states are y'all in right now?
Yeah, not many. So Kentucky, Missouri, we were in more before COVID, but hit some gaps in production and started running out of booze. And so we just wanted to be able to stay in markets we could service well. And so we pulled back from New York and New Jersey, a few other northeastern states. And so we're slowly expanding out as our production has caught up to demand. But we're really trying to do it right and take it slow. So working, really hard on Kentucky right now. Mike's killing it with his sales team with
There you
the
go.
self-distribution, and then Missouri, and then in a weird turn of events, we're in 2 provinces of Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, just a connection up there. But we have a friend that owns a distributorship in Alberta and British Columbia that's got our
That's
product.
cool, man.
That's really
That's
cool.
really neat.
So that small batch you guys just tried just won the best overall bourbon at the Alberta Beverage Awards.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 94
Fantastic.
points, and
Congratulations
it's a
on that.
big win for us. So
That's amazing.
sure.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised and really didn't know what to think when it first got brought in and we tried it. But I even remember the guys telling me, like, hey, they brought this in today. We should carry this. This is good. And I'm like, okay, cool. Came in, tried it. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's get it. Let's get it on the shelf. Now Garrett can't sell anything else.
Mike, how much did you give Garrett? No, just kidding.
Oh yeah. Garrett's my boy.
There you go.
We're going to have to do some blondes on this at the house soon.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this will definitely do some big damage in some blinds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool.
Kenny is the blind king. If you didn't know that, he loves to just blind people and really confuse the crap out of all of us. Sometimes he puts the same whiskey in front of you twice, 2 different glasses. Does that kind of stuff. But
And we
Yes.
also have the cast strength single barrel too. So
Yeah.
we're testing that.
Number
taste
2.
that one next.
I just tried that, and oh my gosh.
What
It
do you
is,
look for when you're pulling a single barrel?
Yeah, to me, the single barrel is like the purest expression of bourbon, right? So, it's me and Colonel Blanton's are the same in that. I think I think you can't hide things in a single barrel, right? So, we just look for anything that's exceptional. So, a note in there that does not appear in other barrels that we really think is excellent, we'll set aside and pull for an exceptional quality. And so all of these single barrels will have something that's sort of unique that we're worried about will get blended out if we were to put them in a blend.
Right.
So speaking about this awesome nose, let's talk about this awesome bottle.
Oh yeah.
That is a great looking bottle.
Oh, thanks, man. Good segue.
Man, this nose though, the nose is like a is it like cream soda? Like a cola-y cream soda-y kind of note
I could
going on
see
there.
some cola. I could see like
It's a
some
cola?
darker. It's has a
darker.
overall to me a darker flavor profile than the batch product.
Man, it's like a caramel cola kind of note that I'm getting on a nose. It's very Man, nice. Okay. Sorry, Steven.
Oh, you're good.
Sure, the label designs. I mean, I think we wanted something that really represented, Kentucky and Bourbon County specifically. So after the bourbon industry collapsed, none of those 26 distilleries reopened, until we did. But a lot of the land that was being used to grow corn and other grain for bourbon production turned to horse farms. And so, we've got some of the most famous horse farms on the planet in Bourbon County. So, it's got that horse standing there. And then that little guy, there's a early bourbon pioneer in Bourbon County named Jacob Spears, and he's credited to be the first person ever recorded to call bourbon whiskey. He advertised it in a New Orleans newspaper. Oh. And so he and his son Noah produced bourbon there in the county early on. And
I haven't seen any of the big guys say that.
Yeah, they don't want you to know that, I don't think. They don't have the Spears name copyrighted, so they probably prefer you not to know that. But they would float their barrels, up to the Ohio River on the Kentucky. So Kentucky to Ohio, down the Ohio River, down to the Mississippi and down to New Orleans. And it's recorded Noah Spears made that journey 11 times, and he would walk back on foot every time. But so there's like a illustration of a guy on a raft pulling his barrels down the river.
There you go.
I just really wanted something that was really represented Kentucky and specifically that old Bourbon County.
Yeah, and I totally blew Steven's transition because what he was talking about was we're going to go back to that one, but we're going to go with
to the Hartfield.
To the Hartfield Family Reserve.
He was trying to, because he was looking at it, getting excited. I know. That's why I looked at him and said, "I blew your transition, didn't I?" And I'm going to leave that right in there. But so these are beautiful, the small batch and single barrel of this Old Bourbon County. But the thing that we came here with the release tonight, which Steve was mentioning, the beautiful bottle is the Family Reserve.
Yeah, Hartfield Family Reserve.
And what do you want to say about that bottle, Steven? Since you brought
say
it up?
something.
I mean, it looks like something from like England, like a king would have on his grand table. Just the decanter style of it, and let's talk about this topper.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that.
This topper is great.
Yeah, so we wanted something to celebrate the 10 years of the distillery. Really wanted a more premium packaging, and we went with this fully glass. The shank is not cork; it's actually made out of glass. It's awesome. It has a great weight feel to it. It kind of clinks. I don't know if you can hear this. Let's see if we can get some good clink.
I'm sure it can. Oh, nice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So that is the cork pop, ladies and
There's
gentlemen.
the cork pop right there. So
you're used to.
but it feels like a decanter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really heavy bottle feel. It's kind of a squarish bottle, and then that's the Hartfield family crest on the front of the bottle.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So we had an illustrator here in Lexington redrew it for us, and really came with a beautiful illustration, and did the rest of the bottle design. So. Man, overall, I think our friend Sarah nailed it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful package.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree. And then, so House of Bourbon, Ryan, you can talk about the pick if you want, but I'm wondering, when I first saw this on social media, I don't know whose bottle it was, if it was one that was picked somewhere. I don't know if these only been single barrels or if it was a product that released. But I remember going, what the heck is that? Because I followed enough about y'all's brand to know a little bit. And I was like, wait, what is this? And don't take this the wrong way. The first thing I thought of was Hill Rock, but I've never had any Hill Rock.
That's what I thought,
don't know
too.
anything about it. And so I'm looking closer at it, and I'm like, oh, this is Hartfield and Company. Then I'm like, why are people going crazy for this? Because people were wigging out over it. There was a lot of buzz. And so, Ryan, how many is this single barrel product only, or how does it work? And Ryan,
so
with House of Bourbon,
we did the first 10 barrels to celebrate the 10-year anniversary were single barrel cast strength releases.
Okay.
And we've been aging those in our rick house for a few years, and knew that they were starting to get up there in proof. We don't proof them all the time when we taste them, but we knew that they were climbing. As you lose water volume, usually concentrate proof, and we just had no idea that most of them had gotten over 140. So I think all 10. So one of them was 139. The rest of them were between 140 to 149 proof. But incredibly approachable for such a high proof.
That's one of the pieces of feedback we got tonight was it doesn't drink 145.
Right.
And I mean, certainly a big whiskey, but I just think that goes back to the flavor. So for me, it's not one of those 145, it's hot to be hot. No, there's actual flavor here.
Right.
Which is great.
And then the other thing I thought of was like how many whiskeys, like bourbon, like that you can call Kentucky straight bourbon, are on the market at this proof. Not many, right? You always see like some anomaly, Stag Junior single barrel or something out there where someone's really excited about it. But I mean, we've been podcasting enough and drinking enough to know that it's very rare to have stuff over 140 proof, especially with an age on it, right? Sure. Sometimes you'll see something at a lower age with some kind of a higher proof. But I mean, geez, this is like kind of excited and kind of scared.
Oh, you haven't had it yet?
I did have a tiny taste, but like that was like really. I mean, I had the cookie right after it, so the palate was overcome with bourbon chocolate. That was That's great. So I'm excited to actually give it its due here. But
I don't remember how many, because you guys came. We did the pick here in the Speakeasy. Kenny was here that day. Some of the J-Hop staff. We had lunch.
Give Kenny no credit though, please.
Right, please, no credit.
Kenny,
I picked the winner.
I don't remember how many barrels. Maybe 3 or 4. I think is what you guys.
I think we did 3. Yep. Yeah. It was like 144, 145, and 148 were the proofs on those.
Yeah. Jeez. And I remember all liking. I think everybody liked all of them. For whatever reason, this one just stood out as our favorite that day, and I think it was everybody's favorite. I think it's delicious.
145. So are you guys? Is your rick house on the moon or in the sun? Or where's it at?
Yeah. We actually age on the International Space Station. So
Nice.
So we have a unique building. So it's a 3-story structure that was constructed out of decommissioned railroad bridge. So they brought these big steel trusses off of the Ohio River in Maysville by rail. And our building sits really close to the tracks in Paris. And so, this building is built out of these big steel trusses, which means that it's way over-engineered. My dad's a civil engineer, structural engineer, and so he gets really excited about the way the building works. But, so it allows us to store barrels on the 3rd floor of the building only. And so we stack them, they're stacked 3 or 4 high, depending on where they are in the 3rd floor, but that means we don't get those weird striations in temperature that most modern rickhouses do. Where you have several different levels of barrels. The barrels at the bottom of the rickhouse don't get as much heat as the ones at the top, and so they just do different things in aging. They don't mature quite as quickly, and one of the things that they do is they'll lose both water and alcohol at the same time. And so typically the barrels in the colder part of the rickhouse actually lose proof as they age. Okay. The ones in the hotter part of the rickhouse evaporate more water than alcohol, and so they will gain proof as they age. And so, but for big distilleries, they are blending everything together, right? And so, they're coming out with some average of the two, and there's market pressure to have bigger releases and get more bang for your buck and not put stuff out at really high barrel proof, right? And so if you've got some barrels that have dipped below, 102 proof or something, and you've got some that are 145, you're blending those together to get some blend and probably proofing it down for your product. And for these sitting in our rickhouse, because it's all, it just gets all the heat, the last couple of years of aging just really zapped that proof and brought it way high. I mean, at least that's my theory of why they climbed all of them climbed right at the 140 proof levels.
Yeah, we had nothing, but 139.5 was the lowest of the 10 that we released.
Yeah.
Wow.
So barrel entry for those was 125. I mean, there's no reason besides that I know of that they would have shot up. Besides, they just sat up there in that heat for a couple summers and just really climbed up in proof. Of course, hazmat is a category, something like bourbon junkies really get pumped about. But a lot of that's just like, hey, can you believe this? 145 thing just melts your face. I can stand it, but you can't because you're weak. But like the thing I love about this.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that's my bourbon bro voice. The thing I love about this one, I mean, is for a hazmat. I mean, you could sit and drink that all night. You wouldn't know you're drinking something because the ethanol burn is virtually not there at all.
No.
And so you really experience the flavors, but because it's so high proof, it coats your palate in a really unique way and just really activates parts of your palate that are not activated if it's not that high proof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like hearing what you guys think about it too. Like, give me some tasting notes. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Awesome pick.
Nose to me is like a cherry oak kind of. That's where I'm getting off the nose, but I'm not getting a ton of ethanol, like you said.
Not for the proof.
Not for the proof. I mean, I'll give you a comparison point. 2 years ago, we had a Garrison Brothers limited release. It was 142 proof that both well, actually, all three of us, I think. Well, Stevie didn't like it as much. You tasted it afterwards. But Kenny and I recorded an episode. We were like, loved it. It was a wheated bourbon. This one is not, but it was a wheated bourbon. And we were like, oh, this is great, blah, blah, blah. I took almost the full 2 years to get to the end of that bottle. I think I have one pour left. And I can honestly say that 2 years after the fact, it is a little bit more proofy, a little bit different than I thought it was the first time I tasted it. This is just soft for, the nose is soft for being 145 proof.
Right.
Yeah, just trying to think about other things I could compare it to that because there's not a lot to compare it to with 145.
Are you getting a little bit of dark chocolate coming through on it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's got a
Very
As
dark.
much as I thought the single barrel also had a darker flavor, this is totally in a darker part of the spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
Stewed fruits, stone fruits, chocolate, maybe even it's like tobacco leather, kind of dark coffee.
coffee grain. That's a good one too. Like just that roasted sort of dark register. Yeah. Woo. Well, I'm going to taste it too here.
I absolutely love the mouthfeel. That was one thing that, I mean, I think when we tried those samples, and that was one thing that stood out to me, was that's one of my favorite parts. Nose is great. At the end of the day, I can live without it, because I've had amazing noses and then the whiskey not taste very good, and that's the most disappointing thing ever. But mouthfeel is one of the things that I can't ignore. That's like one of my favorite things, and these have it. All of them did, and this one's particularly great.
For the proof, it's like the mouthfeel feels light, and it warms your mouth slightly.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
a
not
gradual.
overwhelming. Yeah, it's a
oily.
real graduate. It's in the back.
Very oily.
Yeah.
Oily, that's a good one. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you. Slow.
It's a good ramp up. Like, it's not a... Kenny sometimes describes things like a flavor rod, where it's like up and down, where I think this is like
Gradual
a
uphill.
gradual, that roller coaster up to
Yeah.
the very top apex, and then it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, on this single barrel, to me, that I got a good flavor right out of that. Like, it literally changed 3 or 4 times after I tasted it. So I really enjoyed that single barrel a lot. That was really good. Just the regular Old Bourbon County single barrel.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me about this, and again, just bear with me here because I'm figuring this out as I go, as well as a person who is an enthusiast. You take the sip, you get like some classic bourbon flavor, a little bit of cherry, and then you get like a little bit of like drying that comes into the palate, which is the oak, and then it sort of like calms down into like that chocolatey roasted coffee like finish that just kind of rides you out. That's what I'm getting anyway, and I like it. I mean, I think it's just a really unique sip, and especially at the proof. Like, I'm kind of worried about the fact that I bought a couple of these bottles, because once I open it, 2 pours of this versus 2 pours of something else is going to put me in a different place. Like, stumbling around the house like, hey, just have one bourbon.
Those are going to be different texts we get from Anthony.
Hey, don't talk about those things.
There was a guy that came to the shop tonight, and he's been in here a couple times, and he said, I have another one of these, and so last night I made sure, and like I got big fat pour of it and like a big drink of it. And he was like, because I wanted to know, like, do I want another one of these? Like, if I'm going to come tomorrow, do I want to get another one? And he was like, one glass, and I was like feeling great. And I was like, yeah, I bet. Like, I bet you were. Like, he was like, he was like, it gave me like a different type of buzz, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like warms the soul, that kind of buzz. It's different, you know.
But the thing is you guys weren't really shooting for that the way that you explained it. It just kind of happened, and here we are, you know.
Yeah, it was definitely a pleasant surprise. I think as we were tasting it, as it continued to age, we knew, like, man, these barrels are very special, and we want to do something great with it. The higher proof, though, just brings in a completely different experience, and it is something that's rare. Like, not all barrels do that, right? So, we're capped at 125 proof barrel entry, and so not all distilleries enter at that highest level either. And so it is something that's very unique. It's a different experience, but it's one that's I find to be just very super delightful. And I'm sad we only had 10. I wish we had 100.
We do have more coming that will be aging out this year, but we don't know what the proof's going to be on them, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I think the worst thing you could do is try and force something that's not there, right?
That's
like,
right.
You found these barrels, they tasted the way they did. They, you taste them, and then a year later you taste them, like, wow, and then you decide like to go to market, right? The worst thing I think you could do is try to fit into what this is, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Let that whiskey be that whiskey. Let that release be that release, whether it's a single barrel or a batch, whatever. let it be its own thing. And that goes back to that craft word we were talking about, right? Like that's the flexibility of being in your guys' positions. We can do what we want. We don't have to force something into, a square peg into a round hole. We can do what's best for us naturally, and the right kind of trajectory that we've kind of set for ourselves.
Yeah, and economically for us, it just makes sense for us to do 10 barrels of a release that's never going to happen again. We just don't have to think on the same scale as if we were trying to have statewide or nationwide or global distribution. We can really release a product that is just for this time, this moment, and if you got it, then you got to be a part of it, and if not, that's okay. We'll do something else later that maybe not the same, but just as great.
I think that's the beauty of the single barrel in general, right? Like,
absolutely,
it's a one moment, and usually that moment is all of us, whether that's standing in a rick house doing a pick, and we have this moment, we select a barrel, we have our favorite, and all of us look at each other and say, "Oh man, that's the one," right? And then we pick it, and then 3 months later, we get it, and we get to go to the store and we buy a couple, and then we get to share it with our friends that are across the country, or take it to a bottle share, or whatever.
Right.
It's that moment that we don't ever really get to have again, and I think that's what makes them special.
I'm about to start preaching, man. I mean, so the reason that I love bourbon as a category, and I think why aged spirits will continue to win. We're so, as a society, we're so disconnected from our past, and the institutions that used to give people meaning have all fallen apart. Like, I mean, who here trusts the government, right? Like most of us experience.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't.
Not me.
No, I totally do.
I would win this.
Yeah, like marriage, spirituality. I mean, like all these things that used to like sort of define culture for people have just completely fallen apart. And when you have a product that is anchored in time, when you know that this thing has sat somewhere for 9 years, it tells a story, right? Like it automatically comes with this rootedness and this anchor that I think ties people into an experience. And just like you said, when you pull a bung out for a single barrel and you taste and you're standing in the rick house, there's some magic that happens there that I think happens with very few produced products. There's no way to cheat time, right? You have to have two ingredients to make great bourbon.
Wink.
It's time and pressure, heat, right? Like those things make a great spirit, and there really isn't a way to fake it. And so, and I don't know that we want to. As an industry, I think it would be ridiculous for us to try and shorten the aging cycle or whatever, because we come out with a product and we say, hey man, this thing is rooted in an experience and a time that adds meaning to all of our lives. So that's why I love bourbon.
Jeremy, I don't want to interrupt, but this is the closest I've ever come to crying on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
It's beautiful.
That was great. That was, honest to God, that's beautiful.
Well, it really is. Like, I mean, I think the reason why I'm so attracted to this industry, I mean, I didn't come to this naturally. I didn't grow up as, the 10th version of a distiller or whatever in the long family legacy. Like, I had it in my family history, but, we didn't know. My brother and I did not know what we were getting into.
Right.
But immediately when we put white spirit in a barrel and let it sit there for a week, a month, a year, and we got to try it over time, it just clicked. Like, man, there's some magic. It's alchemy. You're turning the ordinary grains in the field into something that people gather around and celebrate their lives around, and it's a really beautiful process. And that's just everything that happens in that aging process is what I think makes this industry so beautiful.
That's what won me over, man. I mean, which I'm newer to bourbon, and I fell in love with it. I just absolutely fell in love with just how it can all be so, like, you can literally have the exact same mash bill, 10 barrels sit there together, and all 10 taste different. It's just, I just fell in love with it head over heels, man.
Yeah, when I very first heard the story of the Spears family, like the first week I started working for Hartfield, I went down to Stoner Creek and put my feet in it because I just wanted to be a part of that history, knowing that at some point, back, over 100 years ago, some guy floated his flatboat with barrels down Stoner Creek. And it was like just kind of cool to sit there and be a part of that. And it's something we talk about a lot at our distillery, and it's a reason that we want to remain craft is because we like the idea of helping people to like take time, sit down, and have a moment, because we just don't think enough people slow down in the life that we live right now. Yeah. We're all trying to go super fast.
Bustle, yeah.
And we're like, let's just slow down and have a drink together, look each other in the eye, and learn about your story and figure out what what happened to you in life, and this helps. The spirit helps to open it up. We have a fun thing I found on Instagram the other day about what was the Sweat Junior. He has a speech about bourbon where he talks about how it provides for the crippled children, and I just love the bourbon history. But taking part in that and just being able to take a pause and gather around and share something special.
That's great.
Yeah, no, that's it's deep, but we relate to that, right? Because that's kind of what we try to do in our podcast. Sometimes we get together, right? We just take it for what it's worth, but we're not producing anything like y'all are, right? And to hear it from you is really eye-opening and really cool. So we appreciate that. Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot again real quickly too, because no, it's not anything bad. We are tasting 3 products tonight, but y'all have a lot more than 3 products. So
I've got them in my tasting kit. I'll bust them out right now.
Come on now.
Just want to hear about them at least, let
me bust them out. I'll grab them right now.
Oh no.
He's gonna do it. He's doing it.
I'm going to say while he's doing that, if there are a lot of people out there that think that the bourbon industry is dying, listen to the last 10 minutes of this podcast, and I'm telling you, that is why it's not going to die. Is people like that this industry means something to them, their passion, they're connected to it. Like people like Jeremy and Mike aren't going to let bourbon die. You know what I mean? Like it means more to them than just putting something in a glass and a bottle and selling it for, a couple of bucks. Like that is why I think this industry is going to be okay. And we will see the right people, make it the next 10 years, next 20 years.
Yep. Hey, last night I had a phone call with my aunt. My uncle's been gone 5 years, and one of the pictures she posted of him was sitting on the back porch at Woodford. And she said that was his favorite place to go when we come down to visit you guys. And I just sat there and I thought to myself, like, I've had a lot of experiences with my uncle in my life. He was part of my life, my entire life, except for the last 5 years. But bourbon was one of those things that connected us. And Ryan, I'm capturing the passion, man. Like I said, I'm not usually a sentimental guy when we do these podcasts, but y'all started off. He's talking about it now. Look at me.
I'm serious.
Look at me.
It just means more.
You're a very emotional guy.
It just means more. I have a little bit of
especially if someone orders your food for you.
Of course, Kenny's going to say that.
What was your uncle's name?
Bill.
Uncle Bill, man.
Yeah,
I'll drink to
Bill.
that.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Yeah.
Uncle Bill.
Cheers to Uncle Bill.
Yeah, cheers, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it. Cheers.
Boys.
Got you, Kenny. Got you.
All right, what else we got on the table now? So we
All right. Uh-oh.
So
Tell them about this, Jeremy?
Yeah, these are the OGs. So this one's the the first thing. This is actually the first mash bill that my brother Andrew ever designed. 62 corn, 19 rye, 19% malted barley. Those are aged in a smaller barrel, and so we do a little bit different distillation process with that too. So most modern bourbons are double distilled. They either run through a column and then go into a doubler, or if people are doing batch distilling, they'll double or triple by running through a bunch of stripping runs, batching that together, and then rerunning it through the batch still. So we actually run this through our hybrid still one time. Very simple 4-plate column. It doesn't strip out a lot of the congeners, the esters from the grain, and so it has a lot of really nice grain flavor to it. So you put in that smaller barrel, it doesn't absorb as much of the flavor from the barrel, and it leaves a lot of that natural grain flavor in there. And so I think that's a lot more like what spirits being aged before Prohibition, especially in the 1800s when my great grandfather was doing it, tasted like. So I'd love for you guys to give that a whirl. So I will say these bourbons are polarizing.
They're so polarizing.
Some people love them, some people hate them, and I
love high malted barley.
Yeah,
so
I'd say they're not for everybody, but they have a ton of flavor. One thing you definitely say about it is they're.
So are these on the market under any labels yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're on the market. The Hartfield. Hartfield and Co. They both say pre-prohibition.
Because I've seen these Old Bourbon Counties at Liquor Barn and here at Justin's House of Bourbon, but I've not seen this. I'm not seeing this bottle.
Yeah,
So I'm going to dive in real quick and say something. Steven, you probably, because you were hanging out there at the distillery, you're an OG.
Yes.
He had one of the original bottles, and it would have been this kind of a thing.
It was this almost exact look.
Almost kind of look, different label, I feel like, slightly. And I'm just going to come out and say it. Like, we tasted his house one time, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but it was so long ago that I'm not even sure how I feel about it now. So I'm excited to try it again.
That's great.
Yeah, I think
so. When you said polarizing, you opened a door there. I was thinking to myself, I remember kind of thinking that maybe that one, but knowing that you guys had just started, and that was right from the beginning, I was kind of like, okay, it wasn't right, I thought, for my palate, but that was, again, probably at least 3-4 years ago.
Well, that's great. It may still not be right for your palate. So.
And it's okay. Yeah,
it's okay.
This one I call this one Pat Ball's Barn because it tastes and smells
That's
how a tobacco barn.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. The nose is very interesting.
Yeah.
What's the proof on this?
Yeah, 100 proof.
100 proof. So it's got a more robust nose than more 100 proof.
Oh yeah,
whiskey.
Yes. There's a lot of the grain character in there. I think most people pick out corn, right on the nose. That corn sweetness is really dominant. It carries through the palate, but a lot of really nice cinnamon. Get some great tobacco, smoke, leather on the back.
Yeah, a lot of
end.
that.
Yeah, I think that's coming from the barley.
Yeah.
It really carries through as a flavor contributor on the finish.
So what's funny? Like, it actually, for as robust as the nose smells, the flavor is a little bit more muted. Now, granted, we were just drinking 145,
that's true.
121, 100.
I was thinking the same thing, Anthony.
But it's, exactly. There you go. Perfect. Yeah,
We went the opposite direction.
We went the opposite direction. But I'm the one who was like, hey, let's talk about whatever else you're offering too, right? The other products that are out there. So it's interesting. It's very good.
No, thank you. Yeah. So I mean, we do this pre-pro style. You can find Hartfield Gin out in the market in Kentucky. That's a Kentucky only product. We have an aged rum that's awesome. It's a Caribbean style, blackstrap molasses and cane sugar.
So rum, gin, this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw experimental too on your website. Maple finish stuff, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so
right?
we age maple syrup, like grade A maple syrup from Vermont in these little 6-gallon barrels. So it makes incredible barrel aged maple syrup, and then we reuse the barrels and age the wheated bourbon and finish that in a maple. It's incredible. We're going to have a release of that in maybe a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of interesting product innovation and other things. Is there anything else that we should look on the horizon?
I mean, Franken whiskey.
What the heck is that? I saw that. What the heck is
Yeah,
Franken
it's
whiskey?
great. So one of the great things we could do, it's a small distillery. So we're filling barrels. We end up with 4 or 5 gallons left over. We just batch all that stuff together, put it in a used barrel, and age it. And then every year around October, we'll build a batch of Franken whiskey. But it's just it's a whiskey built from the bits of all these other distillation runs throughout the year. Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely.
You actually had Tony Moore is the graphic artist for The Walking Dead, the original graphic novel. It's became a pretty famous show, whatever. But he's a Bourbon County native, and he drew the label for the Franken whiskey release. A really cool release.
That's cool.
Personally, I am a Old Bourbon County guy, not that bottle guy. Just me personally.
How old is this one?
Yeah, that's so we age those for 12 and 13 months now.
12 and 13 months. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's a lot younger. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
See, that's what I thought too, but I can pick up on, and that's the one with the higher malted barley.
It is. Yep.
Yeah, I can pick up on, where I know Kenny's kind of sweet spot is for the malt. I can see the genesis of that flavor. There it's just not as old. You know what I mean? Like if this was 10-year-old, I think
if that was 8. Yeah, if that was 8 years old or something. Yeah.
But 10 years. I can taste the flavor. I really enjoy the.
So you're gonna have any of this stuff at older ages?
Yeah, are you
eventually
stocking it up or?
Yeah, why not, right? So we do have I think the oldest that we have in the 53-gallon barrel is about 3 years old right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're figuring out what we're gonna do with that product. Obviously. It's still that sort of pre-prohibition style in the sense that we single distilled it. It's got that unique mash bill with a high barley malt. But yeah, we'll probably eventually do a release of a straight bourbon whiskey that is that pre-prohibition style.
Once that high malted barley gets older, man, gosh dang it, the flavor is just
We'd be all over that.
dude, all over it.
But I can see the core of it, it's right at the basis. The foundation is there for flavor. You're talking about tons of flavor. You can't knock it for that.
And that is incredibly dark for that
I
for
thought
that
the same
young.
thing.
Well, that's the small barrel.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
basically
6.5
That's the
gallon
small barrels that do
yeah,
that.
small barrels really cook them. I mean, so beyond, we let them age for a variety of times. Beyond about 13 months, man, the oak is just overwhelming. It just really gets a lot of those bitter tannins, and not something that I'm a huge fan of. But right around 24 months, or right around 2 years, there's like a little window where this amazing cherry note comes out of those 6-gallon barrels. But it's such a short window, we really can't capture it on scale. So, we'll let some of those barrels ages, and we'll capture that for like a week, and then it's just, it's gone.
So what about this mash bill in traditional full size barrels at older?
Yeah. So,
And then Kenny's leading. He's leading the witness, Your Honor.
yeah, that's great. So we've been putting this mash bill in 53-gallon barrels for a few years.
That's
now.
about 3 years old now.
Yeah, so about
Okay.
3 years old, and
Okay.
it's delightful.
That's what I'm gonna
it
be-
needs
I'm
more
gonna be all on
time.
that.
Yeah, it needs more time for sure. But we're gonna let it cook until it's ready. Then we'll definitely put that out as a
That's what I'm ready for.
pre-prohibition style straight whiskey.
But I ain't gonna lie, man. I am enjoying both of the Old Bourbon counties, and I'm
Agreed.
enjoying the single barrel a lot more than I thought I would. That single barrel is wow.
Very good. So real quickly, to go back to this family reserve, you mentioned 10 barrels. You said might not happen again, might whatever. I mean, the maybes. Tell me, like, okay, I'm interested right now in this, and Kenny has said previously, and Stephen as well, for the podcast. Could we pick a barrel of this for the podcast? But even beyond that, is something like this going to be something that endures and is going to be? You said it might not be able to
put
be
him on the
scaled.
spot,
You know?
dude.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. My bad.
Are you asking?
Writing a check
Are
is
you asking? Are we
asking.
gonna? Is there gonna be more of this? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like, I mean, are you guys going to try to recreate that magic? Is it going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, the conditions are right? I mean, there's nothing that's changed about our situation. So we've got barrels up there that are getting ready to turn 9 years old.
Okay.
I think I want to see them for another summer, right?
Okay.
So we didn't release these till October. And so they went through the summer last year, and that's when they really, it clicked for it. So I want those to go through a ninth summer, because that matters too. We can't just put them out in spring and hope for
Gotcha.
the best. So
Yep.
we'll see. We've got a few barrels that are turning 9 in April, and then a larger lot that are turning 9 in June.
Okay.
But we may not release that until October. We may not do it at all. You never know.
No, and I wasn't trying to be selfish or whatever. I just really wanted people to know.
I want my name on a barrel.
No. I am literally the least ego-involved person. I just was trying to think about just this getting into the hands of many people.
Yeah, right on.
The scale of
Come
it.
to Justin's House of Bourbon and buy it.
Yeah, come to Justin's and buy
We
it.
got
It's
some
excellent.
cases left.
Yeah,
Come by.
yeah, definitely.
And I'm not gonna try to
Well, please
I'm not gonna try to.
say whatever you say. Come on, Kenny.
I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. I cannot wait to get my bottle of this home
Yes.
and blind it against some George T. Stagg.
Ooh.
So I'm not saying this is BTAC caliber. I'm not going to be that guy that goes out there like some other people have said in the past.
What do you, I don't even know.
I love my boy, but still my boy up north. But I'm going to say
Shots fired again.
But I'm going to say this is cherry, and this is full bodied, and this is viscous, and this is delightful. So I am incredibly glad that I was on the pick, so that's cool. But I can't wait to blind this against some GTS, man. I think it's going to hold up very well.
It's cool.
Wow, this is good.
Specifically, you guys don't have any more of these barrels, right? Maybe you have a couple left, but they're going to be for you all.
Yeah, right. So the last one is we're releasing with a barrel pick club in a week, and then those barrels have all been dumped and are gone. We do have a few bottles back at the distillery, but we're going to be trying to win some awards. So we have to save some to send out to for this award season, and
Can't argue with that.
Yep. Yeah. So and then also the story of this is being spread far and wide, right? People are really hyped about these releases, and we sold out a number of times, and so I think we're just trying to build hype for the future. But yeah, I'm confident that whatever happened to these is happening right now.
Very good.
Yep.
No, I like that. It's
good.
It's good. Yeah.
This is better than I remember on the day we picked it.
I think I would agree. I think bottled, and I don't really understand what happens sometimes. Maybe it's just like going
3
through
more
the-
months or something, right?
Maybe it's just going through the bottler. I don't know what happens, but sometimes stuff just bottles better than
Yeah.
it does. out of the barrel.
Yeah, get down the barrel. I mean, it stabilizes, right? Get a little oxygen in there
little-
while it's being dumped and bottled, and
Yeah.
then it goes in the bottle. And I would agree. Like, I think most things that we dump and bottle are better once they're in the bottle than they are right out of the barrel.
Yeah. I'm assuming it goes into a tank and then to the bottling line. Yeah. So.
Could we talk about how Kenny's headphones are bigger than everybody else's?
Have you seen his truck?
Yeah.
But he uses
truck.
one miniature Glen.
He purchased all of his own equipment.
Yeah, he was looking at everybody else's headphones and like, I gotta have. Bigger.
I could one up you.
Yeah.
He's, a 40-inch lift on his truck.
Sorry about that. God, terrible. Why didn't you adjust it earlier?
I just noticed it.
Where did it?
Unless you're
Hear
down.
him all of a sudden.
Come in the home stretch here.
You do the whole thing.
You're
from the
pretty
top.
Let's just start over.
Let's just start
That's a good
over.
pre-run.
Start over. Start over.
Practice run.
So, guys, tell everybody where they can find you because they can come tour at your place, right? And tell us where everybody can.
Yeah,
come
I think the
see and stuff.
best part of our distillery is in Bourbon County. So the drive from Lexington to Paris is, I think, top drive in the United States. Through these beautiful horse farms.
Indeed.
Every day, Mike and I drive, back to Lexington. We both live in Lexington now, and so, just the sun setting, majestic horses running. So please come out to the distillery and see us. We love, like Mike said, just having guests in. We love to take time to slow down and enjoy a bourbon and tell a good story. So definitely, if you get a chance, you're doing the Bourbon Trail, we'd love to have you out in Paris and have you visit the distillery. And Mike can tell you where we are outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Justin's House of Bourbon. Come
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And you can find us. Ask Garrett how good we are. He'll tell you.
The Bourbon Outfitters.
Bourbon Outfitters.
promo
yeah.
code.
I mean, and
The mashup.
The mashup. Yeah, you can.
The mashup.
The mashup code. Yeah, no. And you can find us at a lot of stores. But honestly, if you can't find us with self-distribution, just tell whoever your favorite liquor store owner is to get in contact with Mike at Hartfield. I will drive to their store and bring them bourbon because we can do that now.
Beautiful.
And we love being good partners. We want to partner with you on your social media, and we just want to get good bourbon into people's hands because there is some stuff out there that's not great. And that's okay. It has its place down the drain. But but no, and so we'd love to have you come and visit us and really spend time. I don't know of many other places where you can come hang out and the master distiller is going to come smoke a cigar with you or tell a joke or whatever. It's just a real. We just try to keep it craft. And I love what Ryan said about making that a positive thing, not a negative. And so, but if we're not in your local store, make sure you ask them about Hartfield and about Old Bourbon County because sometimes they don't realize that we are one and the same. And we'd love to come out and do tastings and all that stuff with you guys.
There's a rich history, a good story that's being told right now, and there's a lot of the story of the early life of bourbon. That's kind of been lost to history. I know there's my friend Drew's coming out the distillery on Friday, and he's writing a book right now about the history of bourbon in Bourbon County. So there's more on that to come. But yeah, I think the story's not been told. We're not tied. There's no distillery that's tied to Bourbon County historically that still survives. There's it's not a lot of marketing dollars behind that, but Hartfield's got a great story, and I think Bourbon County has a really amazing story that's being unfolded right now.
Yeah, you get to tell it yourself, right?
Absolutely.
The perfect way.
Yeah, coming to Paris, I'll be down there tasting rye barrels. So you can come visit.
Come visit Kenny
me
in
as
the
well.
Rick House drinking.
Kenny, I'm there every Thursday. Come on down, bud.
If you see a bald guy in the brick house,
hey,
it's Kenny.
It's Kenny and Mike.
And they also got a great golf course.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
They do, yeah.
And they also have a drive-in movie theater.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great place.
Isn't the Mustard Seed Hill like Christmas light thing?
Yeah, it
out
is.
there
That's out there
too?
too.
Right,
Yeah.
that's out there.
Yeah.
Claiborne
Mustard-
Farms. You can see
Yeah.
where Secretariat was buried.
That's
Yeah.
right.
They let you hold Secretary's head. No, that's not
Yeah.
true.
Get my boy Marty Wells and Myron Thomas. They're in Paris.
Myron.
You know
Big shout
Myron.
out
Get some
to
cigars,
Myron,
yeah.
the
Myron.
police chief Myron.
Canonaro.
Canonaro.
Canaros.
Yeah.
Yep, cigar.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
we have the tallest 3-story building in the world. We could keep going all night.
Yeah. What else you want to know about Paris?
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast tonight. Ryan, special thanks to you for letting us do this after this special event.
Yeah.
Steven and Kenny, I got nothing to say to you guys because, like always, I just want to,
Love you too.
But no, honest to God, this has been amazing. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure
Thanks,
to be
guys.
here, guys. Appreciate y'all taking the time. It's fun.
Boom.
Cheers.
And with that, thanks for listening to this episode. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Mashup KY.
Don't forget to visit our partner, bourbonoutfitter.com. Enter code The Mashup for a special discount.
Also,
Head on over to our partner, the Woodwork Collective, at woodworkcollective.shop. Enter code MASHUP for a 15% discount.
let us know your thoughts in the bottom of the comment section. Until next time, keep it neat.